Alright, reaction. DILAWAN nagbabalik. Reaction. Napakaganda po ng pag-uusapan natin ngayon mga kareaksyon. Mga kareaksyon, maniwala po kayo at hindi kayo maniwala mga kareaksyon. Si Bongbong Marcos, nako, doon daw po sa Malacanang nagkakagulo na. Bawal na daw po ang magpasok ng cellphone sa loob ng Malacanang, lalong-lalo na kapag nasa harap sila ng lamesa. At lalong-lalo na daw po pag mayroong party-party ay bawal nang magdala ng cellphone. Baka nga naman no, yung mga binuking-booking nila, mga Uber booking, sisigaw na naman si Bongbong, it's too big. Huwag mong ipasok sa akin. Masakit. Pasensya ka na. Hindi, love, gawin mo para sa akin yan. Do it for me, honey. Do it for me. Bongbong, mag-resign ka na, boy. Nagbabaligtaran na yung mga sundalo. Sinimulan na po ni Colonel Mugao kasi po nakokonsensya na po yung mga kasundaluan natin. Hindi na po nila masikmura ang katarantaduan, ang nakawan, ang kalokohan ng administrasyon Bongbong Marcos. Ngayon mga kareaksyon, ang nangyayari po mga kareaksyon, kapag hindi na po matiis ng isang tao ang daladala niya sa kanyang dibdib, ano po nangyayari dyan? Sumasabog. Katulad po na nangyari kay Colonel Mungao. Ngayon po si Colonel Mungao tinanggal. Ngayon, para yatang namumroblema pa si Colonel Mungao sa kanyang tinatawag nating pension. Kaya tayo mga kareaksyon, patuloy natin saluduan si Colonel Mungao, ang kanyang pamilya, sa tapang, sa malasakit sa bayan, sa pagsasalita, sa kanyang pagkalas, pag-atras sa withdrawal of support to the Bangag Administration. Simula na yan, Bongbong. Mag-resign ka na, sabi nga ni Manong Chavit Singson. Bongbong, sumuko ka na sa mga kapulisan, sa kasundaluan. Hindi ka na makakatakas dyan sa katarantaduang pagnanakaw na ginagawa ninyo. Dahil marami-rami na po ang magsasalita. Yung si Alcantara. Sino yung kasama ni Alcantara? Alcantara at saka yung bata pa lang. Yung bata, Alcantara, yung isa pa, si Bryce Hernandez. Siyempre, babaliktad ang mga yan. Tinakot yan eh. Diba? Si Colonel Mungao walang takot. May dugong pokis. Pokis hindi puki. Pokis. Si BBM daw ayaw niya ng puki. Ay, sorry. Gusto raw niya tarugo. Sabi niya Din Chase, hindi ko sinabi yan ha. Sabi ni Din Chase, si Din Chase ang kausapin ninyo. Kinokot ko lang yung si Din Chase daw. Stupid. Ngayon mga kareaksyon, talaga daw po namumroblema ng Malacanang dahil dito, dahil dyan, pinalabas na po natin doon sa nakaraang video. Gusto ko lang ipakita sa inyo kung bakit nagkakagulo po ang Malacanang. Hindi po nila alam kung paano pataasin ang hindi, actually mga kareaksyon makinig po kayo mga kareaksyon, dapat mag-subscribe na kayo dahil ang channel na ito, kung supporter ka ni VP Sara, supporter ka ng Pangulong Duterte, supporter ka ng PDP Laban, at supporter ka ni Rodante Marcoleta, hindi ka pa nakakapag-subscribe, mahuhuli ka. Mag-subscribe ka na dahil kailangan ko yung subscription para patuloy na ikalat ng algorithm ang ating mga video. Subscribe, like, and share. O yun. Ito na mga kareaksyon, ito. -3, -15, -27. Yan po ang malaking problemang dapat nilang lutasin ha. Hindi yung flood control, hindi yung edukasyon, hindi yung seguridad, hindi kung kahit anong katarantaduan na dapat nilang ang katarantaduan sinosol po nila. Paano nila paangatin itong si Bongbong dahil dumidiretso po siya sa kumunoy ng korupsyon. Mga kareaksyon, anong pong gagawin ni Bongbong ngayon? Anong gagawin natin? Oy, Bongbong, kabot. Tapos sasabihin, anong gagawin natin? Mga kareaksyon, nauubusan na po sila ng katarantaduan. Hindi na po sila pinaniniwalaan ng taong bayan. Ang kanilang mga post alam ng taong bayan ay puro mga kasinungalingan. Mantakin mo ha, yung Kamunigan Bridge, yung inopen niyang bridge sa Apari. Sa Pangulong Duterte yun, inaagaw na naman ni Bongbong, mga agaw ng tulay. Dapat ang pangalan ni Bongbong si Bongbong Marcos, ang dakilang mga agaw ng tulay ng may tulay. Bongbong, manood ka pinagkakaguluhan na si Sara Duterte. Ikaw nagkakagulo sa Malacanang, baliktad. Si Sara Duterte pinagkakaguluhan, nabubulol-bulol pa naman ako Mantagin mo yan, hindi pa nga ako nagkokok, nabubulol na ako paano pa kaya kung magkoka? Paano ba yung bulol ni Bongbong yung sinasabi niya? Yung nabubulol siya, sinabi niya? Hindi yung basta meron siya sinasabi parang ganon, parang may siya, may tinatarugo siya ganon. Ano ba yung blowjob? Sorry. Parang ganon yung nilalaro-laro niya yung si Mr. Tubig. Bongbong, mag-resign ka na, Brad. Wala na. Negative 27. Mahirap yan. Ito, higit na higit po, Malacanang. Habang pinagkakaguluhan si VP Sara sa Malacanang, nagkakagulo. Bawal ang cellphone, bawal ang selfie, bawal. Baka magkaroon na naman ng scandal. Actually, meron pong kanta. Kaya sumasayaw ako. Merong kanta. Itong video na ito. Kaya lang, tinanggal ko po yung kanta. Kasi nga, baka ma-copyright po tayo. Pero sumasayaw pa rin ako. Di ba? Hindi po nagpiprease ngayon yung aking camera. Kasi, wala lang. Hindi nagpiprease. Yes! Naiingit si Bongbong.
Senior ma'am. Duterte.
O, di ba? Naiingit naman ang Malacanang. Walang walang private vlogger. Si Bongbong pag naglakad, marami mga vlogger na dala-dala yung mga fake vlogger. Kawawa naman. Di ba mga karyasa, kawawa si Bongbong. Naku po.
She was accused of embezzling 125 million and 500 million in the DepEd as against 1 trillion.
So are you saying you will not support the impeachment of Vice President?
No, I will not sign that kasi nga nakita ko na incentivize yung 19th Congress para mag-impeach sa kanya.
So paano yun? By saying this right now, baka wala ka ng pondo na ilabas sa'yo.
Ay, okay lang yan. Talagang ganyan.
Does it really happen?
Alam mo, tagal ko na sa politics, 50 years So this is my, siguro mga last days in politics. So gawin ko na lang yung tama na sa tingin ko.
O, di ba? At least si Erice, mayroong konsensya. Kahit na dilawan siya, may konsensya siya. Hindi katulad ni Dalimaw. Kasama ni Dalimaw to Alam mo si Erice, malaking problema po yan sa mga dilawan at pinklawan. Dahil ginagawa po niya ang tama. Kahit na dilawan pinklawan si Arise, kahit liberal yan, ginagawa po niya ang tama. Ngayon, sa paggawa niya ng tama, nagagalit si Delimaw, nagagalit si Jokno, nagagalit si, Mami, anong pangalan nun? Yung tumamong vice president. Nakalimutan ko ng pangalan kasi wala namang alam yun eh. Si Lugaw. Ay! Si Lenny Lugaw. O, di ba mga kareaksyon? Papatay ko muna po yung camera ko. May dadaan. O, bisa mo! May dadaan, may lumabas ng kwarto. Yun, yung sekretary ko po lumabas. So, pinatayan ko muna ng camera ka, nakakaya naman sa kanya. Mga ka-reaction. Si Arise, at least may konsensya, di ba?
Dagdag ko lang, kay Senator Kiko Pangilinan.
Hoy Kiko, makinig ka dito ha, huwag kang gagago-gago. Wala kang alam, isa kang abogadong walang kliyente. Dahil ka pa ng isang konsyal, marunong sa batas, ikaw ano? O ito, explain niya sa'yo, yung tinatawag natin salin ha. Hindi mo sinasama yung salin ni Sharon Cubeta eh. Sharon Cuneta eh. O makinig ka, Kiko. Masen, makinig ka.
Kay Senator Kiko Pangilinan, I want to put that up on the screen. Ang sabi niya po, unahin na niya to Ombudsman Remulla. Unahin niya ilabas yung salin ni dating Ombudsman Martires mula nang umupo ito bilang Supreme Court Justice hanggang sa pagbaba nito sa pwesto bilang Ombudsman itong 2025. Baka sakaling magkaalaman na bakit tutol ito sa paglabas ng salin.
Hindi ako tutol sa paglabas ng salin. Kasi hindi lang ako may tutol eh. Nakalimutan ni Senator Pangilinan na siya sa Senado. At sila mismo sa Senado ay may sariling guidance na hindi mo pwede ilabas ang salin ng isang senador kung walang consent yung senador. Diba? Kailangan may consent bawat isa eh. This is the requirement of the Data Privacy Act. That's why I was surprised when he said that. As a senator, he should know the laws. Alam niya dapat yung Data Privacy Act has practically amended or repealed the requirements in 6713. Ano bang ginawa ko ang anomalya? Had he said only na dapat ilabas yung salin ko, period, okay sa akin. The problem is he went further para magkaalaman. E di sabihin niya, kung mayroon akong anomalya, di kaksawan niya ako. Why did he also just file a salin of 23 million? Is that believable?
O, di ba? 23 million lang ang pinal ni Kiko. Hindi niya sinama yung pera ni Sharon Cuneta. Walang yaga, Kiko. Abogado ka ba o abogago? Wala ka namang alam. Talagang pinapakita mo pa na talagang wala kang alam. Tuloy, pahiya ka kaya no, kay Sir Martires. Dapat tumakbo senador to eh.
Why didn't he let his wife, Sharon Cuneta, join or state his assets and liabilities in his salin?
Tama.
So that's questionable to you?
Yes, because the requirement of 6713 is joint. Whether your wife is in the government or not. Marami ho akong kaibigan, marami ho akong empleyado sa ombudsman o sa ibang ahensya ng mga asawa na sa private pero sinasama yung income ng asawa sa kanilang declaration of assets and liabilities. Bakit siya hindi? Nakatingin ba siya sa ibang direksyon? He is the one violating 6713 actually, not me. Wala akong tinatago.
Naku po. Ay, Kiko. Huwag ka na magpapabibo-bibo, Kiko. Wala kang alam. Bigyan na saging yan.
Buksan na natin itong napakaganda na tulay. I think
Ito po ang presidente ang walang hiya. Hindi ka naiyabang mo, Marcos. Hindi mo na project yan. Parang yung classmate mo ng college. Kinuha niyo yung project mo, gano'n. Walang yaka bongbong alam ng buong Pilipinas na project ng Pangulong Duterte yan. Wala ka namang alam, wala ka namang ginawa. Nag-inaugurate ka, ba't hindi mo tawagan si Sara Duterte dyan? Bakit hindi mo tawagan si Sara Duterte? Siya yung mag-inaugurate dyan. Ginagago mo ba yung sarili mo? Pinapakita mo ba sa taong bayan na isa kang walang nagawang presidente? Huwag mong pakialaman yan, hindi sa iyan, Mong. Mong, mag-resign ka na, boy.
Buksan na natin itong napakaganda na tulay. I think this will serve as a model for many of the other bridge projects that we will be seeing around the country.
Oops, teka lang. Klaruhin muna natin kung kailan nagsimula ang proyekto nito.
Nandito po ako sa Cagayan ngayon para bisitahin ang Camalaniugan Bridge. Ito po ay isang project na nagsimula nung ako po ay sekretary ng DPWH at ngayon po malapit nang matapos. Pag natapos po itong bridge, itong maging pinakamahabang bridge sa Region 2.
Ang proyektong Camalaniugan-Apari Bridge ay sinimulan noong panahon ng panunungkulan ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Ang pagpaplano at groundbreaking ng tulay ay isinagawa noong 2021 bilang bahagi ng programang Build ng kanyang administrasyon. Malaki rin ang naging papel ni dating DPWH Secretary Mark Villar sa pagsisimula at pagtutok sa proyekto. Siya ang nanguna sa groundbreaking noong 2021 at bilang pinuno ng DPWH noon, tumulong siya ng malaki sa pagtiyak na may pondo ang proyekto at maisama ito sa budget ng pamahalaan. Sa madaling salita, proyekto ito ng Build ni dating Pangulo Rodrigo Duterte na natapos sa panahon ni Bongbong Marcos.
Nako. Nako, Bongbong, huli ka na naman. Hindi mo project yun, Bongbong. Bongbong resign. Wala na, tapos na. Ayaw ka na ng tao bayan. Ano pa, sinong pinamumunuan mo? Yung mga mga cronies, mga sindikato ba? Hindi naman sindikato, di ba? Pakinggan po natin si Atty. Topacio. Ang gawin mo, Bongbong, ikulong mo kami lahat. 1 milyong tao, ikulong mo. Tapos, ipamunuan mo yung sarili mo. Ikaw ang presidente, ikaw din yung Pilipino. Wala na, nakakulong na lahat ng tao. Ayaw ka nila eh. Lahat ng magsalitang resign, ikulong mo lahat. Para maubos yung Pilipino.
Good morning, Panyero.
Attorney Topacio, welcome. May I just start, Attorney Trixie? Kasi nga, I'm fascinated to know na hindi lang pala magaling na abogado si Attorney Topacio. He's a jazz vocalist, percussionist, and film critic and producer.
Yes.
Diba?
I have
And-
produced 3 films so far.
Wow, and one of which is The Mama Sapana. Is that
Yes.
correct? In Netflix.
Yes, it's on
Yeah.
Netflix right now and it got 12 trophies already from various award-giving bodies.
Wow.
Sina Edu Manzano to, no?
Yes.
Yeah, but probably we should go to the mas meatier part of the conversation.
Is it still on Netflix?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
They have
So,
already
para
renewed
lang,
twice. And it was a #1 for 7 weeks when it was first shown.
So,
We should
in
watch
the-
that, no?
Kasi
I
meron
didn't
yung in
know.
the top 10 for Netflix sa Pilipinas. No. So, the Attorney Topacio handles a lot of controversial cases. So, we'd like to know, how do you think about having sedition laws in this day and age?
Now, for me, the sedition laws are outdated and archaic because we have to note that our revised penal code, wherein the crime of sedition, inciting to sedition, and even includes insurrection and rebellion, were established in 1932. It was
Yes,
even before the Commonwealth. It was
Yes,
during the insular government because the Commonwealth was established in 1935. So that is how old this provision of law is.
So, it actually antedates the 1935 Constitution.
Yes, in fact, during the time that it was established, the charter of the Philippines was the Jones Law.
Correct.
So, can you imagine how antiquated it is?
Yeah.
Plus,
I actually was surprised that this crime still exists in a post-martial law era, di ba?
Totoo.
In a democratic context.
And it was created during a time when the American government, the colonial government, was still suspicious of our, di ba may mga laws banning, let's say, the carrying of bolos. That
Yes.
was during the Spanish colonial period. It carried over into the American colonial period. So,
Yes, that's correct.
Masyadong, ang tingin nila sa atin, posibleng mga insurrectos.
Yes, in fact,
So,
under the sedition
So ngayon mga ka-reaction, kapag sinabi mong hindi ko na sinusuportan si Bongbong Marcos, kailangan na mag-resign. Inciting to sedition na yun. Lahat na ba sumisigaw Bongbong resign? Inciting to sedition. O tignan mo si Colonel Mungaw. Nag-withdraw siya ng support ko. Inciting to...
laws as it was first applied, the emblem of the KKK was also banned from being shown publicly. Can you
diba?
imagine that?
Yes.
If you look at the history of the law.
So you weren't expecting this case. You weren't expecting this, or General Pokis for that matter. Kasi parang iniisip ko ang dami namang nagrarally before, no, hindi lang sila General Pokis and United People's Initiative.
Yun nga mga makabayan black, kung ano sinasabi nila kay Bongbong Marcos, meron pa silang sinusunog na EPG eh. Yung mga makabayan black, meron sila sinusunog na EPG, sasabihin nila si Bongbong pasista, si Bongbong tuta ng kano, si Bongbong bla bla bla, pero hindi sila inanong inciting to sedition. Pabagsagin ng administrasyong Marcos US regime, gano'n. Bakit hindi nila inanong inciting to sedition yung mga makabayan black? Dahil sila ay parte ng sistema, gano'n. Ay! O, di ba? Tapos si Poki, si Pokis, tsaka si Munggaw. Ganun yun? Bongbong, resign!
Pero why General Pokis, attorney?
We have no idea because we have other sectors, katulad yung mga makakaliwa. Regularly, nagmamarcha yan.
Tama!
Diktadurang US Marcos.
O, di ba? Tama!
Sagin, are under the laws on sedition, these are supposedly seditious.
Yan. Pasensya na po kayo, nagpipris na naman nung camera ko, mga ka-reaction ha. Pero tuloy-tuloy lang po tayo, naka-smile po ako dyan, naka-smile ako ha, kahit na medyo hindi po gumagalaw-galaw mga ka-reaction, pero magkakasama pa rin tayo sa laban. Marcos, resign now!
Or inciting to sedition. So, why single out? This is selective prosecution actually.
But for our audience, could you define what sedition is and what is inciting to sedition?
Inciting to sedition cannot be divorced from...
Alam ko yung inciting to sedition na yan. Ano yan, masarap yan pag meron suka. Hindi pala sedition yun, chicharon pala yun. Akala ko sedition eh. Di ba?
The mother crime, so to speak, of sedition, which is publicly and tumultuously conducting activities which fall under the four definitions of sedition. You are actually telling the people to commit sedition either by depriving the chief executive of any of its prerogatives or preventing the implementation of a law or the holding of elections. It's so all-encompassing, even scurrilous libels against the government, which is a vague provision, and which should be void for vagueness under the due process clause of the Constitution, are still included in the definition of inciting to sedition. So it's really a very vague, it is a very nebulous law which has no more place under a democratic and republican system of government.
Do you think you will be challenging these archaic laws?
Well, the first order of business, of course, is to defend our client with respect to the criminal aspect. But that is not such a bad idea because before we have challenged the constitutionality of other archaic laws such as unjust vexation, which is really vague.
Isa pa yun, di ba?
Attorney, you think yung pagiging retired general ni General Pokis has also has a weight why he was singled out?
I believe
yung
so.
Yung influence niya in the military.
Yes, I believe so. Although it should not have been taken into account because whether you are a retired general or a plain citizen like us, we did not serve in the military. We are all private citizens. And therefore, our acts should carry the same weight and which should all fall under the same constitutional protection. So dapat hindi kinonsider yung pagiging former general niya. That is irrelevant as to the crime.
Agreed. But for some people, they want to characterize his being, because he does carry the name, di ba? General Pokis, Romeo Pokis, retired. But yung retired kasi once you wear the uniform, parang sinasabi nila, even sa Marines, di ba? Once a Marine, always a Marine. So
even in the government, pag secretary or USEC, we carry the title.
Yes, ambassador.
Ambassador,
Because General Pokis is a distinguished general. So Air Force naman siya.
We never heard any controversies about him.
Definitely. So, he was a fine officer and gentleman.
Was, clean ang record niya.
So, and now he strongly advocates that he is fighting for his country. So,
at hindi lang naman din kasi siya. I mean, you know, I mean, we went to the streets. I was there during the rally. So, and a lot more, no? At mukhang madami pa rin sa mga susunod, not just General Pox.
Naku po!
Charge sa kanya.
Inciting to sedition, though, that was the crime for which he was arrested a few days ago at NAIA upon landing.
Oo nga, parang inabangan talaga siya, no?
Definitely. In fact, sabi ko nga, very suspicious. The warrant was dated December 5.
Naku po!
Mukhang itinaon na may long holiday na walang korte na magagrant ng application for bail. Mukhang gusto siyang matulog.
Pero wala siya dito. Buti
Fortunately,
he is out of the country.
He was out of the country.
Ilabas daw niya yung kanyang apo.
Yes, oo. And that was not pre-planned. It was not an attempt to evade the service of the
Umuwi
warrant.
siya, eh.
Yes, that was planned a long time ago. It worked to his advantage in the sense that he did not have to spend a day in jail.
Tsaka bakit wala, ang nakita ko doon, nakita ko doon, Dorny, he was deprived to talk to you as his lawyer.
Definitely. At natatawa nga ako kasi may ibang mga nagja-justify. Sabi nila, since he was arrested by virtue of a judicial warrant, the right to counsel does not apply. Nagulat nga ako kasi ang sinasite nila, yung Section 12 of Article 3 of the Constitution, and they argue that the right to counsel only applies when a person is under custodial investigation. That is not correct because these people who say that forget that there is a 1992 law, Republic Act 7438, which in Section 2 states, any person arrested, detained, or under custodial investigation shall at all times be assisted by counsel. When the law uses the word arrested, it did not distinguish between a person arrested without a warrant under Rule 113 of the Rules of Court and a person arrested by virtue of a court warrant. Therefore, alam naming mga abogado yan, there is a maxim, ubi lex non distinguit, nec nos distinguere debemos. Which means where the law does not distinguish, we cannot distinguish.
Agreed. So, thank you very much. Maganda yung ano na yan because it informs our audience na yung right to counsel, immediately yun, di ba? The moment they serve the warrant, pwede na siyang humingi ng abogado.
Otherwise, what is the point of being read your so-called Miranda rights? Saying that you have the right to remain silent, you have a right to counsel, when that right is not going to be afforded to you.
So words lang.
Ma-interject ko lang, in a related development, we take exception dun sa justification ng CIDG na kaya daw kami hindi nakausap ng aming kliyente, late daw kami. I have 40 members of media who will attest that I was there at 8:15 because they interviewed me. And I have videos where it is very clear that we were shouting at the arresting team.
Naku po!
Usap nyo sa amin ang aming kliyente.
I saw that video. It's on social media.
Mga abogado. I even identified myself. Attorney Ferdinand Topacio po, abogado ni General Romy Poquis.
So mali ang mali ang excuse.
They're making excuses now that are outright lies, which really scandalizes me.
So,
pero attorney, sorry.
Yeah, go. Go ahead.
Pero attorney, ano ba talaga? Is it true that General Poquis has been going around the military camps to ask officials to withdraw their support to this administration?
I will be very general because the issue is now sub judice. We already have an arraignment and pre-trial on the 14th. But suffice it to state that the call was for the members of the military, if they are fed up with the corruption, with the venalities, with the anomalies in government, to withdraw their support.
No,
that is not inciting to sedition because that is an appeal to your moral and ethical sense. You are not using any force, intimidation, or other means outside of legal methods to effect a seditious situation. So that is well within the bounds of free speech para sa amin.
Para sa akin, as an ordinary citizen, ano yung difference of you? Of course, there is a difference, no? Kasi mas powerful at saka medyo mas sensitive yung position pagka nasa military ka as opposed to you talking to ordinary citizen. Pero it's the same thing, no? Filipino citizen din naman ng mga military.
Yes, definitely.
Diba? So parang it's you talking to the Filipino citizen as a whole. Nagkataon lang na mga military sila.
Yes,
diba?
and this is sanctioned by the constitutionalists. When the Constitution declares that the military is the protector of the people.
But
Yun
they
po
have
yung
their,
premise niyan.
they still have their own free will. Diba?
Definitely. You do not surrender any of your rights when you go to the military. The rights that are restricted somehow are those which fall under the general restrictions of a civil service member, which is partisan political activity, conflicts of interest, but you're still a citizen and you are still subject to all of the rights enshrined in the Bill of Rights.
So, si General Browner, nanawagan, I think a few months ago, na wag naman daw i-draw in ang AFP sa political discussions. Well, he used the term, I think, partisan political discussions.
Dapat naman talaga, na sila talaga should be neutral.
What do you think about
Yes, I agree,
this?
definitely, but this is not partisan.
Ayun,
This is political in the sense that it involves the body politic of the Philippines, meaning to say the Filipino people. That is it, no more, no less. We are not even saying that we want to disregard the principle of civilian supremacy over the military. We are not calling for the establishment of a military junta. We are calling on the decent elements of the military that if they can no longer stomach what is happening, maybe they should withdraw their support. We are not saying you withdraw it, you rise up, you depose the president forcibly. Well, that is not what we're calling
I think yun ang
for.
dapat na clear.
Di ba tama naman yan mga kareaksyon? Hindi na nila may stomach, hindi na nila masikmura. Pag hindi nila masikmura, edi umalis, withdraw. Withdrawal. Baka yung nangyari doon sa H2 big, withdrawal, ano?
Kasi doon, what do you mean when you withdraw the support?
Yeah.
Diba?
Well, it is
Yun ang
what it
that's
is.
where you draw the line kasi.
And how is this related to the constitutional advocacy to protect the people, for the AFP to protect the people?
Yun ang sensitive
Definitely.
part of their position
Because, well, of course, we all studied political science, and we are aware of the doctrine that has been incorporated into many, many democratic constitutions, as advocated by John Locke and Thomas Jefferson, that sovereignty resides in the people. It's in our constitution. Under that principle, if you read the Federalist Papers, which was the foundation of the United States Constitution, from which our Constitution draws heavily, since the sovereign power is with the people, there is an inherent right to revolution, meaning the people as the sovereign has the right to change the government, which is only representative of the people, if that government is no longer responsive to the needs of the people or do not deliver the basic necessities of the people to that extent.
Or even present a danger.
Yes, definitely. So to that extent, the loyalty of the military is not to the government. It is to the people. They only support the government because the government was given the political agency by the people to govern them. Once the political agency has become has lapsed or has become null because of certain anomalies, then that loyalty should revert to the sovereign people.
To the Filipino people.
Yes, as the
And to the
protector.
country.
Yes, and the military as the protector should be mindful of that heavy burden placed upon them by the Constitution.
Pero alam mo, Attorney Topacio, on another note, no? Medyo bago tayo, masyadong hot yung topic na. No? Pero ako, I always wonder, and I've been wanting to ask this question, why do you take on yung clients at the center of public anger? At saka, or well, at least very controversial cases. Pero, before you answer that, we'll take a short break. No?
Alright! Nagbabalik po!
Mikey Oreta.
Dun sa tanong, do you usually come to them or they come to you? And
No, I
get you
cannot.
as a
I cannot.
lawyer? You can-
And the spokes is back still with Attorney Ferdy Topacio. Our hanging question, why do you take on clients at the center of public anger or controversy?
Attorney, pwede ba
This is
bago mo
why,
sagutin? Pwede ba bago sagutin, Attorney Topacio? Dagdag lang dun sa tanong. Do you usually come to them or they come to you and
No, I
get you
cannot.
as a
I cannot.
lawyer? You cannot say that.
Lawyers cannot
Okay.
solicit representation.
So
That would be ambulance
call-
chasing. That's
I see.
unethical.
Okay, okay.
Oo.
Yun talaga, mga ano to, I'm sure yung mga hindi abogado, hindi alam niya. Okay, for the hanging question, Attorney.
Actually, of course, they come to me. Akala siguro nila, magaling ako.
Baka naman talagang magaling naman kayo.
Anyway, question
but
on
then,
that.
to answer the heart of the question, lawyers are like doctors. When you come to us, we make no moral judgments. If we think, regardless of the personality involved, if we think that person is being unjustly prosecuted or is innocent, then we have to give legal services and give our best defense to the best of our abilities. So that is the only principle involved here. We cannot turn them down, although, well, a lot
Marami na
of
ba kayo
people know.
na-turn down?
Yes, not many, but a lot of cases which are equally, if not more controversial than the ones I've handled, and some are even very lucrative. But
Can you cite an example?
I cannot
Is
because
that no?
well,
Okay,
there is
okay.
a
Bawal yun, no? May
there is one that
confidentiality.
was very controversial regarding the massacre of journalists. But I had to turn that down because I was of the belief that the acts were not defensible. We'll leave it at that. So I have to be convinced in my heart of hearts that the person before me asking for my legal assistance is innocent. Like what happened to President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo and former First Gentleman Arroyo. We were vindicated by the court. The tax case of President Joseph Estrada. The assessment, which was around almost 3 billion pesos, was invalidated by the Court of Tax
Yun!
and upheld by the Supreme Court. So these are cases wherein I feel good about them because my instincts were right that these persons were being persecuted and they need my legal
And with
assistance.
all these cases, Attorney, ano yung pinaka-controversial and very challenging among these cases that you have mentioned?
Marami. Because
Or may favorite ka ba?
wala. I treat all clients equally because nung tinanong ako ni Boy Abunda when I guested there, sabi niya, I have a question, attorney, if I get into trouble, can I afford you? So I told him,
Kasi 40%,
definitely.
40% pala ng law firm mo is pro bono.
Yes,
Diba?
that's what I told Boy Abunda. Sabi ko, Tito Boy, you can afford me because my lawyer's fees range from millions to zero.
So pwede kami sa 40%, Attorney?
Pwede naman. Basta qualified. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, for every controversial case, like Cassie Leong or General Pokis.
How do you qualify the pro bono cases?
Well, if these people cannot pay and they deserve to be assisted legally and there is no other way by which they can attain legal assistance, then we take on the cases. We have taken on so many cases, as I've said, for every Pokis or Cassandra Leong or GMA or ERAP, there is a janitor or an ordinary employee or a taxi driver that we have helped.
But you said that you must be convinced of the innocence of your client.
Yes.
But don't you think that even the guilty deserve representation?
Yes, they do, of course, because the Constitution itself says that every person is presumed innocent.
There you go.
But however, if guilty, and I believe that there is no way, there is no legal justification there is no not even a mitigating circumstance, more so an exempting or justifying circumstance, then regrettably, I will have to say no to that person. Because, of course, we are also bound by a set of rules, the canons of professional responsibility. Unless the assistance is for him to plead guilty.
Yes.
And then we will just try to mitigate the circumstances for his punishment. But that should be the limit of my participation in case a client is really guilty.
So, attorney, how do you distinguish defending a person and defending alleged conduct?
Well, the conduct is the subject of the defense, not the person. He may be a saint, but if the conduct is not justified, we will decline to represent him. In the same manner, he may be the most notorious person, his reputation may be shot, but if we feel that he has been unjustly or unfairly being proceeded against, especially by the government, because it's really very difficult to defend a person against the government when the entire array of government machinery, especially the executive, is ranged against you. Ang hirap. I experienced that with GMA, with ERAP, even to a certain extent, kahit privado, yung kay Denise Cornejo, when there was so much vilification against her. That it's really difficult. But you have to remember that justice is not subject to public opinion. Otherwise, sa social media na lang tayo maglitis,
I
di ba?
understand that your father was also a former politician.
Yes,
diba?
he was.
In Cavite.
Yes.
Kayo ba wala kayong planong tumakbo?
Wala eh. I mean,
Kasi marami rin kayong mga clients that are politicians.
And you're with PDP.
And I think you're a deputy. Deputy kayo.
Spokesman.
A spokesman of the...
Well, being a spokesman is one thing. Running for a public office is another. That's a really giant leap.
Okay. So that's not part of your plan?
We don't know. We go where destiny leads us. I believe in a God that guides the destinies of men and nation, and we will go with the flow. Sabi nga sa Biblia, di ba? Thy will be done.
So right now, well, you did mention that Cassandra Casio is one of your clients. She's currently unreachable, but are her cases still ongoing, or are they, what's going on with that one?
She has a case in Pasay that's being conducted in absentia, meaning to say she has been arraigned and she has posted bail before she became unreachable. There is another one which will, of course, under our rules of court, it will have to be archived, because jurisdiction has not been acquired over her. So, however, since our engagement subsists and there is no word from her, since we have had no communication for some time, our engagement subsists, and therefore we are bound by our duties as her lawyer to continue defending her in the best way that we can under the circumstances of her absence.
She's being charged with pogo-related offenses.
Qualified human trafficking, as a matter of fact, which wherein bail is a matter of discretion.
Yes, but in the case, because it seems nowadays that when you use the term pogo, it carries the weight of prejudicial.
And you even mentioned earlier that Casio is it one of your pro bono cases? Tama ba?
No, she's a paying client.
Okay.
So medyo kasi dati, wala because pogos were legal.
This is one of the controversial.
But now, it carries some kind of, it's been vilified.
Yes, you can thank the Quadcom for that, for demonizing pogo, which was perfectly legitimate. I'm not defending it. In fact, I'm against any form of gambling. That's my personal stand. But,
But why did you take the case of Casio, if that is your personal stand?
Well, because pogo is not the one under trial here. It's
but she is
Ms.
still.
Cassie Leong.
But do you believe that she is still connected with pogo?
Her extent, as far as I know, from the documents presented to me, is that she has leased property to a company that
so you're
indulges
saying that
in
is
pogo.
just the connection? That is just the link, the connection?
Yes, that is the
not
connection.
necessarily her being involved.
That is why we were mystified as to why she was charged with qualified human trafficking when that offense requires scienter, meaning to say that you must have consciously and deliberately engaged in the commission of the crime with full knowledge that it was a crime.
So, Di ba? Ang ganda ng mga kaso
Oo nga,
ni
oo.
Attorney Topacio.
Tapos kanina-
He filed a petition last year, tama ba? On the 2025
I mean, we're
budget.
talking about the budget
Yeah,
earlier.
yes.
Calling it the most corrupt budget.
Controversial.
Well,
Kasi at the time, di niyo
it
pa
is, it
nababasa
is.
in 2026.
It is.
Yung 2025, he called it the most corrupt budget.
Pero hindi ka
So
ba
what were the
nasi-stress sa
basis?
puro
Oh,
controversial yung mga cases mo?
Of course, stress is part of
mukha
it.
namang mukha namang ano ka pa rin, pwede ka pa rin mag-appear sa film. You can
Thank
handle
you,
it
for
well.
being
You
here.
can
Well, we have
handle it well.
our
Okay.
we have our
Sorry,
ways of
go
coping.
ahead.
Don't worry.
So you did file, diba, a case
Yes.
on the 2025 GA
Yes,
budget.
because aside from the unappropriated allocations, the UAs, there are really blanks and a lot of questionable circumstances surrounding the passage, the enrollment of the bill,
Itim
and its
blank by
eventual transmission to the office of the President for signature. Talaga pong may mga singit. Kaya nga, biro namin, si then Speaker pala ay mahilig sa singit.
Ano po ito? Parang similar to the case that was filed by Congressman De Lima and Congressman Erice?
I have not seen the case filed by them, but ito, this is akin to the 2013 case of Belgica.
Okay.
But this is worse because here there are actual blanks that were filled
Insertions
up.
talaga.
They were filled up with people who should not have been given the power and
Correct.
prerogative to fill up blanks because that is no longer a legislative act if done
Naku
by
po.
persons outside of the legislative decision-making process.
Ito yung may small committee pa.
Yes, oo. Hindi maintindihan yung small committee.
Appropriations,
Kasi
ano,
kaya ako natanong yung nabanggit kanina about the case filed by Erice and De Lima. Kasi may case na nga, ganito na nga controversial yung 2025 GA, which in fact, you filed a case against it. And now, itong 2026 budget, what do you think of this?
Yun nga parang fan yata sila ni Gary Valenciano Di na natuto. And you know, I'm really mystified. Di ba? Merong sinasabi what the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Whatever possessed the Marcos administration to think that after all the controversy that surrounded the 2025 JA, they would do practically the same thing. I mean, hindi ko talaga, I cannot wrap my head around it na kung bakit inulit na naman nila. There is, my only conclusion can be that they need those pork barrel funds as bribery for the next impeachment proceedings against Vice President Sara Duterte. Yun lang ang naiisip ko na tingin nila, it outweighs the possible controversies and court cases that will be spawned by the new 2026 GAA.
Sabi ng ibang mga critics nyo, hindi ka lang daw nagdi-defend ng tao, but you also shape the narrative. What do you say to this?
Well,
Public perception
Public
is very
narrative.
important, diba?
well, you know,
sometimes that's all that matters.
well, we have to shape the true narrative because in any controversy, especially when a case is high profile,
Yeah.
the other side always tries to push their own narrative.
Okay.
So, sabi nga di Archibald MacLeish, di ba? How shall freedom be defended when it is attacked by lies? Di ba? So we have to bring the truth out so that the lies will not prevail.
So this is the portion of our program where we ask you.
So kaya nga, another tough question, diba? Again, on
just
general...
in case you didn't notice.
Again, on general focus, parang sanay na naman siya sa
So
magot ng
parang
tough question.
dead ma
Again,
lang,
yeah, going back to General Poki's case, di ba? Are you defending the retired general? Or are you making or sending a warning to the Marcos administration about how far this can go?
I'm part of the team. It's a team. I have the Attorney Levy Baligod there. We have General Virgilio Garcia, also retired, who's also a lawyer.
Yes.
It's a battery of lawyers. May
Nice.
power bank pa kang kasama So, para hindi malobat. Kasi alam namin, this is going to be a long and arduous battle. Kasi kalaban nating gobyerno. And the case of Pokis is not just a simple inciting to sedition case. Kasi ang inciting to sedition, ano nga yan probationable so to speak, hanggang 6 years lang ang maximum yan.
Correct.
Prison correctional yan
could
which is
actually just
4
apply,
years, 2 months, and 1 day to 6 years. So probationable yan. Pwede ngang i-probation yan. Ngunit, it is more than that. It is a warning to other people that if you criticize the government, you will suffer the same fate as General Pokis. Not only will a case be filed against you and a warrant issued, but your warrant will be served in the most heavy-handed manner possible.
Actually,
Publicly, humiliatingly,
Yes.
and with
And then
deprivation
denied
of right to counsel.
Yeah, I think this case is important because, again, there will be more rallies in the future.
Definitely.
Diba? Until walang nakukulong talagang mga big fish. And this might really affect the, what you call this, the success no, of the
Sa national
mga rallies
budget, there's
coming
always
days.
tension between the executive, of course, and the legislative.
Yes.
So in the past few years, what we've seen is parang the legislative has been trumping the executive kasi they've been going at it, may NEP, tapos parang guideline lang yun.
Yun nga eh.
May sarili silang mundo, meron silang sarili silang NEP.
Pero ngayon, ang tingin mo, this 2026, do you think na namamayagpag na ang Malacanang or is it?
You think
Hindi pa rin eh,
or do you believe that Congress still has reclaimed the power of the purse?
Well, the Congress will always have the power of the purse. But of course,
Under the law, dapat sila naman talaga.
Sila talaga. But
rightfully so.
usually, syempre, it's a collaborative effort. Kaya kami ang NEP eh. So, ang sinasabi lang namin, kung talagang importante yan, it should have been in the NEP. Bakit sa legislature nagkakaroon? Kasi yung NEP wish list ng presidente yan eh.
Kaya dapat walang
Ito gusto
unprogrammed,
ko. Para sa amin nga, actually, since as you have said, Ma'am Relly, na they hold the power of the purse, meaning the legislature, dapat nga sila nakikipagtawaran sa executive. Pag sinabi ng executive, 10 bilyon, Sir, baka pwedeng 9 na lang. Tipid tayo ng 1 bilyon. Kasi ang laki na ng public debt natin eh.
Correct.
O, di ba? Baka yung 500 million mo, baka pwedeng 450 million na lang. Tipid tayo rito. That shouldn't be the role of the legislature, of Congress. Hindi yung lalakihan para meron kami. Para meron kaming AX, meron kaming AKAP, meron kaming letters of guarantee. I mean, what's up with that? Ang trabaho po ng legislature, hindi magbigay ng ayuda. Hindi magturo kung anong itatayong flood control o tulay. It is to make laws. Yun ang problema dito.
Another tough question.
Inumuna ako. Kinakabahan ako eh.
A lot of your famous cases are constitutional in nature. You help define what the Constitution is intended